Welcome to the Sport Exchange with me, John Robbie. Hi guys, it's John Robbie here. Welcome to the Sport Exchange podcast, where we meet celebrities and personalities from different sports. We hear their stories, the good, the bad and the ugly, and learn how they deal with the transition from playing to enjoying the rest of their lives. Each week I'll discuss my most recent article, and we hope to have a lot of fun. Enjoy. Today on the Sport Exchange podcast, we meet a young South African who is living the dream as one of the brightest rising stars in the world of golf. Welcome, Dylan Frittelli. Dylan, great to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Hey, John. Thanks for having me. It's exciting to be here.
Living the dream, are you?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, golf's in good order right now. My life's in good order, and definitely looking forward to a great future.
Tell us about your life. I mean, where are you? I know it sounds ridiculous because we know you're sort of in America, you're in Europe, you're in South Africa. And I think a lot of us get confused with the race to this and the race to that, etc. Describe your life at the moment in terms of your golf. How do you make those decisions about where you are?
It's pretty fractured. My main goal is playing the European Tour right now. So most of my time spent there. But the European Tour spends time in Asia, Europe, South Africa. So yeah, fractured is the best way to describe it. And then I try and live out of Austin, Texas for most of the year and come back to South Africa for the summer here. But quick answer for everybody is, where do you live? I say, wherever my golf bag is. Just follow that golf bag around and try and play some good golf wherever I am.
Obviously, from the outside, and we were chatting about it before the interview, I mean, a lot of people just see the glamour. They just see the glamour, the money, the winnings, etc. How would you describe the life of a professional golfer?
They're probably two different lives as a professional golfer. There's the one that people see on TV. They see those PGA Tour players flying private jets, staying in the best hotels, and everything's comped, nothing they have to pay for. But that's maybe 3-4% of the professional golfers in the world. The rest of them are just hardworking people, from your club pro at your local club to maybe the journeyman pro who's trying to make it on whatever tour they're on. But for me, I've made it to the point now where I'm close to the top 50 in the world, and I'm entering that final sort of glamorous stage of the professional ranks. But it's taken me 5 years now as a professional to get there. So I've definitely seen all sides of it.
You've served your time, so to speak. And I thought you were in the players, but you just missed out.
Yeah, exactly. I was 52nd on the world rankings when the cutoff was made. So top 50 in the world got exempt to the players. And sadly, I'm not in Ponte Vedra Beach to be playing this year.
What is that like? Because you're sort of on standby, aren't you? If somebody like Nicky Price famously had his appendix out and John Daly got in and won the PGA, are you told you're on standby? Can you always get that late call?
Yeah, there's a bunch of different rules and regulations for each tour around the world. European Tour, PGA Tour, Sunshine Tour, they all have different ranking systems. So you really just have to study up on each tour's basically a rule book and know where you sit in terms of that. I'm a non-member of the PGA Tour right now, so I have no rights on the PGA Tour, but European Tour I'm fully exempt till the end of 2019. So all these little rules that you have to stay in touch with, and a lot of people kind of forget about that or don't want to know about that, and they just let their management take care of it. But I'm the guy that on a need-to-know basis, I need to know where I'm going and what I'm doing and what my chances are for certain events.
What is lack of form like? I mean, you lost form in 2013. You were one of the rising stars. And I think a lot of South Africans didn't realize what you'd done in college golf until you started winning again and your history came up. But at one stage you went down to I think 926th in the world. How did that feel? And what is loss of form? What does it feel like for a professional?
It's a tough spot. I'm sure most athletes, or especially golfers, come to terms with that at least once or twice in their career. I mean, I came out of college, I was a top 10 ranked amateur in the world. I was second or third on the college rankings when I turned pro, and found myself winning my first year out on Sunshine Tour, Big Easy Tour, and then on the Challenge Tour in Europe. And here I am, 23 years old, going, this is easy, pro golf. I've won my first year, and never really thought that, but that's kind of my thought process. I'm a top player. This is the way it goes. You just move up the rankings, and sooner or later I'll be in the top 100 or the top 50. And then 2014 came along, end of 2013, and 2014 was a terrible year. I was just looking at my world rankings, and I think I missed 10 cuts in the 25 tournaments that I played in, and it was really a low point in my career because I was struggling. I didn't know where the ball was going. I was traveling.
But how does that happen? I mean, what happens? Is it a technical thing? Is it a mental thing? Do you discover your thumb is in the wrong place or whatever? Or do you go through all these things and try and tick a box?
My answer is just, it's everything. You can divide the game up into many different aspects and look at each one specifically, but if your mental game is not in good form, that can certainly detract from your technical side. If your technical side is not on form, it can detract from your mental side. So everyone would ask me while I was going through that slump, what's the problem, or you can't see the problem unless you have a good management team around you that knows your game and knows your swing and knows your mental side completely. You don't really know what it is until you figure your way out of it. So my goal was just to keep working on each of those aspects. So it was the mental side, it was the technical side. You've also got the social side. You've got interactions with friends and family, and I had a few family issues going on as well. So that was certainly taking time away from everything I was trying to accomplish. But the diligent work that I put in through that time was definitely the key to come out of it. I'd basically been a little too heavy on the tournament playing side.
Yeah.
So I'd lost a lot of practice hours through 2013 and 2014. And as you know, John, to be the best in the world in anything, you got to put in the hours. So playing tournaments every week of the year and trying to earn money is not the best thing. You really have to find the time to log those hours and maintain your game.
And did it make you a difficult person? I mean, golf is so unique because it's so individual, and one hears about, people who've gone through what you went through then, and they become, I remember talking to Nicky Price, when you're playing badly, you become a different person. You're down on yourself, down on your friends, etc. Did that happen to you at all?
Yeah, for sure. I started looking into possibly studying again and getting an MBA or some kind of postgraduate degree, whether it was part-time or full-time. That certainly crossed my mind, and I looked at a few avenues, but in the back of my mind, I always knew I'm good enough. And I kept on telling people, that was another thing. Told people, I played with you 2015, and I said, look, I know I'm good enough to make it into the top 50 in the world. I see my peers. I've played with these guys. I've beaten them before. So I know I have the game. It's just a matter of sticking it out and being diligent and making sure I'm doing everything I can to get there. And thankfully, that's the case.
Yeah, I remember chatting to you, and when I met you, I'd never heard of you. I'm ashamed to say. And then as we chatted, and, I tend to interview people even when I'm not officially doing it. And, you were talking about beating Jordan Spieth. And this was when he was the new crown prince. And here was you, down there. So you doubted yourself, but in the end, you always had confidence. Did you ever say, my dream is up?
No, there were tough times there, but I never truly contemplated the thought of not playing golf. I would always play golf, and it was, whether it be an aside or it would be a career in something else and maybe let it go for 2 years and come back to it. It was always a short-term thing, but it never crossed my mind a life without golf. And now, honestly, now that I'm in the top 50 and I'm playing well and making money and doing stuff, now that thought probably crosses my mind more often than it did when I was struggling.
You're kidding.
Because now it's to the point where financially I could set myself up to retire at the age of 32, 34, 35, depending on how well the next few years go. And if I don't have that burning desire to win championships and to finish in the top 10, and naturally I'm a pretty calculated guy. I'm not a Jordan Spieth. Spieth has a burning desire to win everything, whether it's a ping pong game or it's the Masters. He wants to, and I'm more the fact of I want to master the art that I'm doing right now, and I want to get to my peak level. And then once I've got there and I've achieved it, hey, maybe I'll move on to something else.
Winning a major would surely be the ultimate. Are you telling us that, and we've seen it with some people before, they win that major and somehow they're never quite the same again. Do you fear that could be you?
Yeah, I fear for sure. I've definitely felt at times in my career that lack of desire or that lack of wanting to do great things, but it's almost that feeling of complacency. Oh, I've made it. I'm here. I'm making enough money. Now I can relax. And I think a lot of pro golfers see that when they get a family as well. Either when they get that major championship, or they have a family, or they have something else to distract them from their day-to-day workings of playing golf. And I haven't found that yet. I've got a passion for surfing and a bit of outdoorsy things, but I haven't found that other passion yet. And I fear when that passion shows itself, then maybe that may be the
what's this saxophone you've bought?
Is
that your passion?
Yeah, no, I played it growing up. So my mother kind of forced me into playing it in school. So I played for 2 years, and I just thought it's something now I can work on just to get my mind off of the golf and in downtime somehow distract me from everything.
So you bring your saxophone on tour?
No, that's not going to happen. My luggage is too big.
Because didn't Payne Stewart have a band at one stage? They had a band, and some of them played music and got quite good. Is there anything like that going on behind the scenes on tour?
No, I'm not that good. I come from a family of sportsmen, and I don't think music is there. Although I studied at the University of Texas, and I have some family in town there. Vincent was a professor of music at Texas, a violin player. He's played all over the world. So some of your listeners may recognize Vincent Frittelli as the violinist, but definitely not in the same vein there. I'm still a novice.
A player of note. What is it like going to the States to university? Because it sort of trips off the tongue. And you say, as a young golfer, you either get involved in the tours or you go to college. And you sort of think, well, that's it in that little sentence. What is it like arriving as a young South African at the Texas Longhorns? I mean, this famous institute. It must be scary.
Yeah, it certainly was. I mean, I had a goal of going to a smaller university. University of Arkansas was only 20,000 students in Fayetteville, Arkansas, but Austin, Texas is now 11th biggest city in the US, and university had 50,000 students. I was a little intimidated when I decided to go to Texas, but once I got there, I knew this was the place for me. I mean, the facilities were amazing. The opportunities were endless, and that's probably the biggest decision I've made in my career so far, and it's one that has certainly paid dividends.
I mean, I think your dad wrote letters, didn't he, and said, look, my son is good. He has won this, that, and the other. So it's almost like you had to make a name for yourself. And then I think the fact you're a South African counted a lot.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in golf, obviously, South African golfers have a good name out there. So coaches will look at the rankings. And if you're in the top 5 of the junior rankings or the amateur rankings in South Africa, there's a precursor there that, hey, you're a good golfer. You could turn out to be a good prospect. But it took some convincing to get that scholarship to the States. I was the number 1 junior and amateur when I left here in South Africa, and top 100 in the world amateur rankings. But it's tough for South Africans to get over there. And I think I kind of broke through a mold of most guys would turn pro at 18. And if I'm good enough to play on the Sunshine Tour, then I'm good enough to turn pro. And I had a few other goals in mind. I wanted to get an education. I wanted to maybe expand my horizons a bit and set myself up overseas. And that's something that not a lot of young athletes do from South Africa, and I wish more people would.
So when you arrive off the plane, is there a delegation to meet you with kit? Do they, take you out, show you what, or you say, you're on your own?
You're pretty much on your own. My mother wanted to fly with me to America and get me set up in my dorm room and buy my pillows and all that. I said, Mom, you're staying here in Johannesburg. Sorry, but I can handle it. So fortunately, I had some family in town, and I knew the roommate that I got freshman year. I'd played a few junior tournaments with him, so there was some familiarity there. But when I arrived on campus, it was all new to me. But thankfully, the university basically catered to every need that I had. We had an academic advisor. We had a athletes only study hall where you could do all your studies. You could find tutors there for each subject if you're struggling. And we had a beautiful gym. We had a trainer. We had a great golf course with access to any sort of training facility we wanted. And then my head coach, John Fields, who's one of my biggest supporters, I would say. I mean, he would do anything for us. Anything within the rules, obviously. Whatever golf clubs you needed, whatever training devices, whatever coaches you wanted to see, he would set it up. So I'm very thankful for that whole university setup that I had over there.
What advice would you give to a youngster here who's thinking of going the college route?
If it's specifically a golf player, I would say
golfer.
Yeah, golfer, definitely do it. When I was over there now in the States the past 3 months playing all these PGA Tour events, my mom actually said to me when I got back, she said, Dill, I never really truly realized how big of a precursor that college golf was. When you were there, I saw all these guys and you'd played against them in college, and then you see the other guys and they may not be in your same time horizon, but all these guys have played college golf. When you see the leaderboard on the PGA Tour, they often list their alma maters, players' alma maters, and every maybe 12 or 14 names, there'd be one guy that didn't go to university. But pretty much 80, 90% of those PGA Tour players have gone to a university, whether it's 1 year or 4 years, they've been through the system. So you can't say that that's the only way to go, but...
How do you choose, though? How do you choose which university?
That's tricky.
Are there duds? Are there some places that will punt their great golf program?
There were lots of golfers, top golfers out of South Africa that went there, and George Coetzee was one of them. I'm not going to name the university he went to, but he went over to the West Coast and spent a semester there and said, I'm done. I'm going back to South Africa. This isn't good for my golf, not a good lifestyle. And he left. So the key for me was I went and I visited. I saw the university.
Yeah.
I'd been to America before, so I knew the lifestyle. I knew the social aspect of it. And I was all about it. I enjoyed my time over there. I knew the people and I knew what to expect in Texas. But some people just sign a document and go to Montana or Virginia. Or
jump at the first one, yeah.
They've never been there. And I mean, I'm kind of a calculated guy, so I'm not going to make that decision just by getting an email. But most kids, I say, do your research. If you can afford, go over and take a visit. Most universities will actually pay for you to take a visit. So
that's interesting. Yeah.
Check it out. And if you like it, you can do 5 unofficial visits. They'll let you go over there and pay for it. So do your homework. And if you like it, go ahead and give it a go.
What about winning the Callaway World Junior? Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing that secured my scholarship. So John Fields was still the coach at University of Texas. We told him I'm coming over to play Torrey Pines World Juniors, and he said, okay, I'll fly out there and watch you play. Like, obviously I know your record's good in South Africa, but turned around and ended up winning that tournament and beating, I mean, you look at the guys that finished behind me now, most of them are still on tour and making millions, but that was basically the huge international victory that I needed to secure that scholarship and set myself up in sort of the world sphere of junior golf.
And always now, you had so much success there. I mean, winning the college championship, etc. I mean, you had a vital win in that win, didn't you? Was that 2012?
Yeah, 2012 national championships.
Describe it.
Texas, we're playing against Alabama. We were number 1 ranked team in the country. Alabama were second, and it's a match play final. So you get whittled down from sort of 80 teams on the nation. They go through to nationals. They're 30 teams, and at nationals, 30 goes to 15 through stroke play. And then the last 2 rounds of stroke play, they go down to 8 teams, and then it's an 8-team knockout. So we really did well, both teams, to get to the final, being the number 1 and number 2 ranked team in the country. And in the end, it was 5-man team, 3 points to win the championship, and it was 2-2, the 18th hole down at Riviera's, playing against Corey Whitsett.
I can see the sweat is in your hands already.
All square, and 18th hole's a really tough par 4 dogleg right. I hit a great drive, great approach shot to about 25, 30 feet, and Corey had hit it just over the back of the green. Managed to chip it up pretty close, and I made a 30-footer to win Texas's first national championship in 40 years, which is quite crazy considering the golfers that have come through there, Justin Leonard and Tom Kite, Ben Crenshaw, Mark Brooks, all guys that have won major championships. And to sink that putt, and that was my final putt as an amateur, final putt as a collegiate golfer. So that was, I mean, maybe to this day, still the biggest golfing moment in my career.
I know you were very dedicated, and some have compared you to the great Gary Player in terms of your preparation, in terms of your accent on healthy living, etc. But I can't believe you only partied twice at university. Is that true? The night you won must have been one of them.
That's 100% true. The second time was when we came back from nationals, and we had there's a tower lighting ceremony. The campus center point is the UT Tower. So they lighted orange at the top and the rotunda is orange. So we did that, and then we went downtown for a little bit of a celebration. But yeah, I didn't. During college, I just figured I did have a good social life.
Yeah.
I went out and I spent time with friends, and we'd go to other people's apartments and stuff, but I never went downtown to the clubs and the bars and the main spots in Austin. So I still don't really frequent them, to be honest. I like to live a clean life, and anything that's going to detract from myself or from my career, I tend not to get involved with.
Were you considered odd? Because, you know, you think of college life in America, particularly sportsmen. I mean, you're living the dream there as well, so to speak, but partying is a part of it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's not to say I didn't have fun. I had tons of fun, but I just saw the negatives. I had a really good friend. She was on the soccer team. She was downtown one night, left the bars at 1 a.m. She was walking back with a friend of hers and another friend who was on the athletics team, and a drunk driver came by and basically ran her over, and she almost died. I mean, she was on life support for 2 months, and I saw that. That was my second year of university, so that was a bit of a sobering moment. She's recovered now, and she's still not the same, but that was a good reminder for me, my second year there, to go, hey, accidents happen, and if you're downtown at 1 a.m. in the morning, it's probably not the best place to be.
Have you been injured? Have you been lucky with injuries?
I've been very lucky. I haven't had any serious injuries, a few niggles here and there, but...
Like what?
Just lower back pain, little right side or glute. I was actually just at the physio today and just basically taking toll of what the issues are in the last few months, and she's worked on those things today, and I'll see her again in another 5 days. But that's something that I'm diligent about, just staying in good shape. And
so you're proactive, not just reactive.
Yeah, no, there's been no serious issues. I've never had to miss a tournament because of injury. So if I can go my whole career with that being the case, I feel like I'm A, going to make a lot more money over 20, 30 years, and B, be healthier for it once I retire.
And have you met Gary Player? I mean,
I have,
have you spoken to him? If I was a young golfer now, I would sound out Gary Player, and I know he's such an enthusiastic person, and I would milk his brain. Talking to you, you remind me of Gary Player in some way, and I say that as a compliment. Have you learned from him?
I have, yeah. I was fortunate enough to spend about 2.5 days with him in the Czech Republic, of all places. We did a Canon golf day out there and had lunch and dinner and breakfast with him for 2 days, and I just sat there listening. I cued him on a few questions, but Gary, just wind him up a little bit and he'll go for 2-3 hours. But no, that was an awesome experience. I was young in my career. It was second year as a pro, so I didn't want to ask too many questions, but no, I've certainly picked his brain and got some really cool stories out of him.
We're talking to Dylan Frittelli. Tell us about your parents. You've often paid tribute to them, and I think you've often said, including going easy on the partying and also spending money at university, that you respect the sacrifices they made.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I came from, I would say, a middle-class family, or maybe upper middle class in South Africa, and my dad worked really hard, insurance company, and my mom was a teacher. So growing up, I thought, oh, we're rich, we got tons of money. And as I grew up, I realized, hang on, most of their money is going towards my sister and I, and there's really, I mean, my parents they don't really have any savings right now. So I realized that was a huge thing for them. And when I got to university, I didn't want to waste any time, any money. And obviously they had to pay for my flight to get over to the States, but the rest of it was on me. So I didn't want any other burden for them. I actually went 4 years without having a car because, I mean, car in the States, they may be cheaper than here, but it's still a huge expense. So I said to them, I'll be fine. I'll be able to get rides off people and figure it out. But I'm extremely thankful for everything they gave me. I mean, I always had a decent tennis racket, a decent cricket bat. I had whatever I needed to excel in each sport. But I realized early on that it was quite a sacrifice from them.
Must be lovely now that you've earned so much money, and congratulations on that, to be able to maybe spoil them a bit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's one of the perks of playing well and doing well as a professional athlete. There are upsides to it, but I try to stay somewhat modest. I mean, I still don't have a place of my own here in Johannesburg. I stay with my parents when I'm back here, only at 2-3 months a year, so it makes sense. But I've invested a little more heavily in Austin, where I spend most of my time. But it's nice to come back here and help them out and buy them the odd thing, take them on holiday, fly my parents out to the Masters this year. That was pretty cool.
Wow, fantastic. School was interesting because you were a multi-talented sportsman. St. Albans, one of the really top schools in the country, small but one of the top schools, and you got a sports scholarship there, and you were multi-talented. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I've actually played 4 provincial sports growing up.
Which ones?
Soccer, golf, obviously. Played baseball for 2 or 3 years as a youngster. And then hockey, field hockey was probably my best sport. So, sorry, I say field hockey. That's the American in me.
What position were you?
I was a centre link throughout my whole career. So I captained Gauteng North under 13 hockey team and soccer team. So I guess you could say I was a pretty talented sportsman. Yeah. And then when it got to high school, I was on a cricket and hockey scholarship at St. Albans, and I excelled there. I played first team my grade 9 year for hockey and a few caps for cricket.
What did you do as a cricketer?
I was an off-spin bowler and middle order batsman, but again, captain. I was all about the psychology and strategic aspect. That's what I loved about the cricket.
Did you ever think of, I mean, obviously, and we know hockey players who've given up because of the SASCOP treatment, stopping them going to the Olympics, etc., which we've said before is a disgrace. You can make a good living as a cricketer. Obviously, golf, if you make it, it's much tougher. Yeah. But you can reach that top dream status. Did you ever think of cricket?
I did, but I realized early on that I didn't have the drive to get in the nets for 2-3 hours a day and the drive to practice. I didn't enjoy practicing my cricket. I enjoyed it out on the pitch and being with the guys, but I really loved practicing golf. I enjoyed going to chip and putt and challenge myself there. So I made that decision probably 13, 14 years old. And then I was actually kind of pushed in the direction of golf when we asked the headmaster at St. Albans if I could, my grade 10 year, just focus on golf and see where it could take me. And he said, sorry, you're on a scholarship. We need you first team cricket, first team hockey. So
what was your reaction to that? You must have been cross.
Yeah, it was a tough one. It was a huge decision that we had to make. And fortunately, my mother being the teacher, she did some research and found an opportunity to go and do a private homeschooling tutoring type thing, and we jumped at that opportunity.
If your mum had, because I'm fascinated by this, I was reading about it, because to me as a parent, I would say that could be fraught with danger, because I can imagine myself trying to homeschool. There wouldn't be much schooling done. If somebody was listening to this and thinking of doing a similar thing, if their mother wasn't a teacher or father wasn't a teacher, would you recommend it?
Yes, I would still recommend it if your heart and your goals all align in being the best athlete you can. I think a lot of people go into it in the sense of, I don't like school. It's getting in the way, and I just don't want to do the school part. I'll brush it aside and do this homeschooling thing. I think that's the complete wrong reason for doing it. I went into it to streamline my golf career, to streamline my academic career, and I graduated with 3 A's. I took the matric exam, my grade 10 year, for 4 subjects. So I condensed 3 years into one. I did 4 subjects that year and 3 the next year. And I managed to get 3 A's, 3 B's and a C. So I still focused on it. It wasn't that I brushed it aside and just forgot about it. But it's not something we took lightly. We still had the fallback that I could come back to St. Albans if I didn't enjoy it or it didn't work out. So
do you go back now? Do they claim you?
Yeah, they still do. I still got a few friends that went there and we still hang out. But I haven't been back to... Yeah, I haven't been back in 2 years. I played a bit of cricket. I played all boys cricket 2014 and 2015, and I really enjoyed that. So
has the headmaster ever sent you the letter to say, I would just like to say well done, or is there still bad?
I've definitely got a lot of communication from them. And the new headmaster, Shane Kidwell, has been instrumental in that, setting up the old boys and making sure that everyone's well connected. So in that sense, I do feel part of the community. And I mean, depending on where I settle down one day, where I get married, it's probably an option to send my kid back to South Africa to boarding school there, because I really enjoyed my time.
Isn't that fantastic? Tell us about the Italian connection, the Italian job. Where does that come from?
So that's my great grandfather. He was the first generation to stay here in South Africa. He was a young boy, 12, 13-year-old.
Where was he from?
So from Tuscany. My family is centered around Lucca, so a small town.
Beautiful town,
yeah. It's a wonderful town. City of 100 churches, I guess, is its nickname. But I haven't got too much contact with the extended family over there. We still have some family, but I haven't seen them in a couple of years. But I have spent time over there and traced our roots to the sort of Tuscan coastline there.
When you turn pro after this stellar college career, what changes?
Everything, really. I mean, I went from having a coach and an assistant coach take care of all my needs. We just showed up at the airport, traveled to a tournament, and here's the hotel, here's cool. And
some of the American players used to complain about the travel, didn't they? Yeah. Tell us about that.
Yeah.
You come from South Africa.
No, I mean, we would fly to Chicago, from Austin to Chicago, a 3-hour flight, and guys like, oh my gosh, this flight's going to be... I said, dude, I'm going to twiddle my thumbs and maybe read a bit for one of my classes, and we're there. And they were just, they struggled. But no, it was tough making that transition from everything's taken care of to doing it yourself. And I signed with a management company my first year, big company, IMG, and they took care of
the biggest,
yeah. I mean, probably the biggest in the game, and took care of a lot of my needs, but it still wasn't to my liking. I'm a pretty OCD character, so I like to know exactly what's going on. And I guess in hindsight, it was probably a bad decision to go with them, because I like to take care of my own stuff. And I guess I learned from that, and the fact that I maybe took too much of the control, and I should have delegated a lot more to them. But in the end, it is what it is.
And again, advice. Would you do anything differently looking back?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, that sort of downturn that I had, you mentioned 2014, 2013, it probably came around from poor management, from poor scheduling, from just a macro look at it was not good. And if I had maybe a mentor or someone that had been there and done that, and they could have said to me, Dill, you're playing 35, 32 tournaments a year. That's too much. No one has ever done that. European Tour had a tweet the other day that I'd played in 35 different countries over the past 2 years, and I had like 68 tournaments in my 2-year window. So that's always been my way of doing things. I like to play a lot and I like to keep busy, but early on it was way too much. So definitely finding a mentor or finding someone that could have guided me a little better through that. And I had resources. I could have reached out to other players and South African guys and asked them, but there was nothing on hand that I could use.
And dealing with tragedy, I know that you know, one of your biggest successes winning a tournament, your caddy's wife passed away. I mean, tell us about that. It must have been devastating, because that relationship between caddy and player is very special, isn't it?
Yeah, there's actually another story to that. So that 2013 tournament I won in the Challenge Tour in Austria, the Kenton Open I won, and on the Sunday my grandmother passed away.
Oh wow!
So I didn't even know about that until afterwards, or maybe even the Monday, and then. Fast forward, 2017 last year, fast forward 4 years and won another tournament in Austria. And on the Sunday, my caddy's wife passed away. So there's a weird little story there. But yeah, it's obviously in any career, you're going to have ups and downs, whether you work in a job 9 to 5 or you're a professional athlete. And it just helps to have a good support structure around you to deal with stuff like that. And I'm typically very, I guess, I don't know what the right word is, maybe blasé to the emotional or the social aspects. But
really? Yeah,
I've certainly come to terms with the benefits of having a good support structure around me. My sister's probably my best friend, along with a guy in Texas called Travis, and I often bounce things off of them if I'm ever feeling upset or not on my game.
So how important, because on the other hand, you do hear stories, and there are some shocking examples in South Africa of people who've relied on their fathers, for example, or family, and ended up with the person involved almost thinking it's them that's having the career and is the star, and often it's gone horribly wrong. So how important is it to have a support structure that you absolutely trust and you know is not going to go too far?
It's huge. I mean, I look at my setup now. I don't have a big-time management company. I don't have these big players in the world of golf taking care of me. I've got a lawyer out of New York, a guy that I've got to know over 7 or 8 years now, and I trust him wholeheartedly. So I know when he's walking in to do a deal, he's got my interests at heart. So something like that is huge, and it bleeds then into my practice routine. I can relax when I'm practicing and playing. I know that he's taking care of that. Previously, I would like to get updates from the agent and what are we doing? How much money's on the table? What are we... So now it's to a point where I can focus solely on the golf, and I'm still a bit OCD in terms of travel, and I still book my flights. I still make sure my accommodation. You use that term a lot.
Yeah. OCD. Do you mean you're seriously, like David Beckham apparently used to do the carpets in a special design like football, and his wife says he seriously is OCD.
No, it's just the easiest term I can latch on to, but I like things done a certain way, and I like to know where I'm going. If I'm leaving on Saturday for Wentworth, I like to know what time my flight is, and the flight costs $1,700, and that's just who I am. I don't like to waste money. I don't like to have ends open, and it's just better for my mental approach, because I know when I go and practice again, then I'm focused and everything's taken care of. And it gives me another outlet outside of playing golf. There's a lot of downtime in my career, so if I'm sitting there, as I said, I haven't found that other passion, so I can occupy my time. Same thing with taxes. I do my own taxes. I've built a beautiful spreadsheet.
You're kidding.
I download my credit card statement, my debit card statement, all that stuff, and I plug in everything, each tournament, each type of expense, and I do all of that and then hand it over to my accountants afterwards.
Do you enjoy doing that?
I do. It's a nice outlet. So haven't got any sort of business training, but as I mentioned earlier, I've thought about getting an MBA or something along those lines, but it's just another tool that I can keep my mind going. And I think that's another aspect that not a lot of sports people think about. It's about keeping your mental game going. And in golf, it's huge because you want to be on your tip-top mental shape when you're playing a tournament, and there are not many ways to do that.
You should write a book. My wife says I tell everyone they should write a book. But I mean, going through what you've gone through, I mean, it's an incredible career, albeit short, but you've also had that dip where I suppose in a way you were performing way below expectations, your own and other people. And yet that strengthened you. There's no doubt about that. We've touched on some of the pitfalls and you seem to have avoided them, etc. I mean, seriously, a book that would, for golfers or for other professionals, I would imagine would be very valuable and also would give you something to do. Have you thought about that?
I haven't, no. I mean, I've started mentoring some other, I'm 27 years old and talking to myself as a mentor, but there's a youngster, Doug Gim, who's come through the University of Texas system. He just played in the Masters this year. He won low amateur there, and he's a prospect. He's top 10 amateurs in the world, and he's relied on me for a lot of info now in this turning pro stage. And I've just given him the info that he's asked for. I have a lot more that I could give him, but I like to think that I've helped him out and given him a good track on professional golf. But that's something that I'm always open to. It's tough, obviously, to weed out the guys that maybe don't actually have a goal in mind of being a professional golfer. They just want the lifestyle. But I know Doug is a diligent guy. I've seen him training at the University of Texas Golf Club, and that's someone that I'll definitely lend time to. But yeah, maybe a book or even like a playbook, as they call it in America. Something shorter than a full book would be. Yeah, that's a good point.
I think that would be fantastic. And in terms of majors, because let's be honest, that's the currency by which, I mean, I know some people would say money, but believe me, as somebody who's not a golfer, it's not. I mean, a major is the key. Would you rather be Colin Montgomery, or would you rather be a guy who's won one major? And I would say definitely the one major in terms of making it as a sport. I know your preparation was huge for the Masters last year, almost Gary Player-ish, again, if I can bring that up.
Yeah.
Are you hot to trot this year, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I've had some good results the first bit of this year. I was checking my results just this week, and they're trending in the right direction. I've had 2 top 10s so far out of, I think, 10 events. I've missed 3 cuts, so there's been a little dip there, but I'm definitely looking forward to the summer now. I've had a little bit of time off heading into the meat of the European Tour season. It's going to be really busy. I'll probably play 9 out of 12 weeks with the 3 majors interspersed there. So never played a US Open. Shinnecock Hills is a famously tough course where Retief won. So that's the kind of setup I enjoy. And then British Open at Carnoustie, which is one of their toughest on the road.
Carnoustie.
So, exactly. And then
do you like links golf?
I do. I'm slowly coming to terms with it. I never played much as an amateur or a junior, but I have to learn how to play it, and I'm slowly coming to terms with it.
Tell us something, I always ask, tell us something that nobody knows about Dylan Frittelli. And now we know you play the saxophone, so you're not going to get away with, or you're learning the saxophone, you're not going to get away with that one. Tell us something that very few people know.
I just told you I do my own
tax,
hotel bookings, taxes, all that's not going to be a surprise. Geez, there's not much that I can think of. Maybe get into the social aspect. I was known as Mr. 3 months in college. I used to date girls for about 2-3 months, and then they didn't really cut the standards. So I've dated a girl for 2 years. That's my longest relationship, but Mr. 3 months is pretty much
that's it.
My moniker
amongst
my
friends. Are you saying you're available?
I'm available. I'm very single, yeah. There are not many girls that'll put up with a guy on the road for 7-8 months a year, but yeah, still looking for that
fantastic
person to fit in.
Dylan Frittelli, it's been a pleasure having you here in, I'll say, the studio, here at the Slow in the City. Let me get it out. And we wish you well, and we'll follow your career very, very closely.
Cool. Thanks a lot for having me, John.
That's a wrap of this week's podcast. Wasn't Dylan interesting? Living the dream, eh? And thanks to Slow in the City for hosting it as usual. Check out their new restaurant if you haven't done so already. You'll thank me. Follow us on social media at TSE Advisory and subscribe on iTunes to get all our updates. See you next time. Cheers from John Robbie.